Somewhere right now, someone is sitting at their desk reading a statistic that is about to change everything about how they see the world. They don't know it yet, but the information on their screen is the same kind of information that created the largest company in American history. And in about 4 seconds, they're going to close the tab and go watch something else. In 1994, a 30-year-old hedge fund analyst named Jeff Bezos read a single statistic. The internet was growing at 2,300% per year. He didn't think it was interesting. He thought it was a decision. He quit his job, packed everything he owned into a car, and drove across the country to start a bookstore out of a garage in Seattle. That bookstore is now worth $2 trillion, employs over 1 million people, and ships to every country on Earth. But here is what nobody tells you about how that happened. It wasn't one good idea. It was 10 specific decisions, made at 10 specific moments, each of which you could face yourself. This is what happens when you actually make them. You are a 30-year-old analyst at a hedge fund in New York City in 1994, and your career is going extremely well. You make more money than you ever expected, your bosses respect you, and by any reasonable measure, you have already succeeded. Then you read that the internet is growing at 2,300% per year, and you start doing math that changes everything. Most people read a statistic like that and think it's impressive, maybe even share it at dinner. Bezos read it and asked a different question. What does not exist yet that should, given that this is true? He made a list of 20 product categories that could theoretically be sold online and systematically evaluated each one. Books rose to the top of the list for a specific reason. There were 3 million books in print at any given time, but no physical store could ever carry more than 150,000. That gap, 3 million possible books, 150,000 available in any store, was not a business idea. It was a structural impossibility that the internet could solve. He called his boss, who he genuinely liked and respected, and told him he was going to quit to start an internet bookstore. His boss asked him to take 48 hours before deciding, took him for a 2-hour walk in Central Park, and made every reasonable argument for why he should stay. His boss was not wrong. The arguments for staying were solid. You could stay. The upside was certain. The downside was that you would always wonder. You think about being 80 years old, sitting in a chair looking backward. The things you regret at 80 are not the things you tried and failed. They are the things you never tried at all. You hand in your resignation. You leave behind a bonus check that you will never collect. You load everything you own into a car. Your wife, Mackenzie, sits in the passenger seat writing the business plan on a laptop while you drive. You are driving from New York to Seattle, and the business plan is being written in real time because there is no other time to write it. You don't have a building. You don't have investors. You don't have a product. You have a plan and a credit card and a destination. Most people wait until they have more certainty before starting. They wait for the right moment, the right funding, the right conditions. Bezos understood that the right moment is a myth, that certainty never fully arrives, and that the cost of waiting is paid in the future you don't build. You arrive in Bellevue, Washington, and you set up your operation in a rented house with a 2-car garage. You put a door on sawhorses to make a desk, you run extension cords from the house, you buy computers, and you start. There is no launch event. There is no press release. There is no announcement. There is just a person in a garage deciding that the thing they are about to do is worth doing, and starting to do it. The garage has a folding table, 2 desktop computers, and extension cords running from the house. This is Amazon before Amazon. You build the website yourself, writing code you sometimes have to look up because you haven't used it before. The first order comes in on July 16, 1995, and it is a book called Fluid Concepts and Creative Analogies, ordered by a computer scientist in California. You don't have a warehouse. You drive to the local bookstore, buy the book yourself, pack it on the kitchen table, and mail it. In the first month, Amazon sold books to customers in 45 different states and 45 different countries, with zero marketing. Word of mouth was spreading because the product worked. The book arrived. The price was right. The website didn't crash. By the end of 1995, Amazon was processing $20,000 worth of orders per week, which was more than Bezos had projected for the entire first year. He hired his first employee in late 1995, then his second, then 5, then 15. The garage became too small. He raised $1 million from his parents, telling them there was a 70% chance they would lose everything they gave him. His parents invested anyway. They believed not in the business plan, but in the person who made it. Within 2 years, Amazon had annual revenues of $15.7 million and was growing faster than anyone in the company had modeled. Amazon went public on May 15, 1997, at $18 per share, raising $54 million and giving the company the fuel it needed to scale. On the same day, Bezos sent a letter to all shareholders that explained exactly how he planned to run the company, and most Wall Street analysts found it alarming. He wrote that Amazon would prioritize long-term market share over short-term profitability, that losses were intentional, and that anyone who disagreed should invest elsewhere. Wall Street wanted quarterly profits. Bezos was offering a 10-year plan. The core logic was simple. The internet was a land grab, and the companies that planted the most flags fastest would own the most territory. Moving slowly to preserve profitability meant allowing competitors to establish themselves in markets that could be yours. He expanded from books to music in 1998, then to movies, then to electronics, then to toys, then to tools. Every analyst said he was spreading too thin. He kept going. In 1999, Amazon's revenues hit $1.6 billion. The company was losing money on almost every transaction. Then came the event that was supposed to end the whole experiment. March 2000. The dot-com bubble bursts, and the Nasdaq drops 78% over the next 18 months. Amazon's stock falls from a high of $113 per share all the way down to $6. The analyst firm Lehman Brothers publishes a report declaring Amazon will be bankrupt within 12 months. Pets.com runs out of cash and shuts down. Webvan raises $375 million, burns through it, and disappears. Cosmo, Boo.com, eToys, all gone. Amazon is bleeding cash. The stock has lost 94% of its value, and the press is writing its obituary. Bezos calls every employee together and tells them something that sounds either like leadership or delusion, depending on what happens next. He says, "We are not going to run for safety. We are going to use this moment to build the infrastructure that will make us unassailable when the recovery comes." He cuts costs surgically, eliminating waste, reducing headcount in underperforming areas, but keeping every piece of infrastructure that the future version of Amazon will need. Every other company in the space is retreating. Bezos runs toward the center of the storm. He has 18 months of cash. He makes it last 24 by finding efficiencies that the crisis forced him to find. He does not pivot. He does not sell. He does not take the exit that would have been available and understandable. Amazon survives the crash. And when the internet economy recovers, Amazon is one of only a handful of companies still standing, with infrastructure none of its competitors built because they were busy running. It's 2004, and one of Amazon's product managers has an idea that the finance team immediately hates. The idea is to charge customers $79 per year in exchange for free 2-day shipping on every single order. The finance team runs the numbers and concludes that Amazon will lose money on every single member who joins. Bezos approves it anyway. The logic is not about the $79. The logic is about what happens to a customer's behavior after they pay $79. When you pay $79 up front, you are psychologically committed to getting value out of that membership, which means you default to Amazon for purchases instead of comparing prices. You stop shopping around. Amazon becomes your first stop, then your only stop. Amazon Prime launches in February 2005, with free 2-day shipping as its only benefit. 1 million people sign up in the first year. Within 5 years, Prime members were spending an average of 4 times more on Amazon than non-Prime members. Prime expanded to include streaming video, music, grocery delivery, pharmacy, and reading, all for the same $79, which eventually became $139. Today, Amazon Prime has over 200 million members worldwide, generating more revenue than most Fortune 500 companies. The fee that was supposed to lose money became the gravitational center of the entire Amazon business model. Amazon built its entire company selling physical books. By 2004, it was the dominant book retailer in the world. Bezos then spent 3 years and hundreds of millions of dollars building a device designed to eliminate physical books. Not because physical books were failing, because he understood that if digital reading was coming, Amazon had to be the one who brought it. If someone else built the e-reader and Amazon stayed in physical books, Amazon would eventually lose its most important product category to a competitor it had failed to see coming. He called this being willing to cannibalize yourself, to eat your own best product before someone else does. Every publisher he met with thought he was their enemy. He told them he was their future. The Kindle launched in November 2007 at $399 and sold out in 5.5 hours. Within 3 years, Amazon was selling more Kindle books than physical books. Within 5 years, the Kindle had transformed reading, established Amazon as the dominant platform for books in any format, and made the physical book business a supplement rather than the core. The company that built itself on physical books chose to replace physical books. And by making that choice itself, it remained in control of what came next. To build Amazon at scale, Bezos had to build one of the most sophisticated technology infrastructures in the world: warehouses, servers, logistics, and software platforms. In 2002, he noticed a problem inside the company. Every team was building its own version of the same basic tools, wasting enormous resources duplicating work. He issued what became known as the API mandate. Every team must expose their capabilities as a service, accessible by any other team with no exceptions. This forced Amazon to build everything in a modular way, each piece functional on its own, each piece connectable to everything else. Then someone asked the obvious question that changed everything. If we built these services for ourselves, couldn't we sell them to other companies? Amazon Web Services launched in 2006, offering computing power, data storage, and networking infrastructure as rentable services. The pitch was simple. Instead of building your own servers, rent ours. Pay for what you use, scale up or down instantly. Netflix moved its entire streaming operation onto AWS. Airbnb built itself on AWS from day one. NASA runs scientific computing on AWS. The CIA has a classified cloud built on AWS. Amazon was renting infrastructure to companies that competed directly with Amazon, and those companies were paying Amazon for the privilege. By 2023, AWS generated $90.8 billion in revenue and $24.6 billion in operating income, more profit than Amazon's entire retail operation. The store needed the infrastructure. The infrastructure became more valuable than the store. In the year 2000, while Amazon was in the middle of its dot-com crash survival crisis, Bezos quietly started a second company. He told almost no one. It had nothing to do with Amazon. It would not generate revenue for more than a decade. Since he was 5 years old watching the moon landing on television, Bezos had believed that humanity's long-term future required moving off Earth. He believed that the resources of Earth were finite, that heavy industry and energy production would eventually need to move to space, and that someone needed to build the infrastructure to make that possible. Blue Origin's mission was to lower the cost of getting to space by building reusable rockets, the same way reusable aircraft made commercial flight affordable. He funded it himself, spending roughly $1 billion per year of his personal Amazon earnings for 20 years without outside investors. For most of those 20 years, almost nothing happened publicly. There were test flights that failed. There were test flights that almost worked. There were years of engineering problems that had no obvious solutions. Most projects die when they stop being visible. Blue Origin continued invisibly for 2 decades because one person kept funding it regardless of public attention. On July 20, 2021, Blue Origin launched its New Shepard rocket, carried Bezos and 3 others past the edge of space, and landed it back on the launch pad vertically. It was the first crewed spaceflight by a private company to successfully complete and land. 20 years, $2 billion per year, one goal, no shortcuts. On July 5, 2021, the same day Blue Origin flew to space, Jeff Bezos officially stepped down as CEO of Amazon. Amazon's market cap on that day was $1.7 trillion. The company was the most profitable it had ever been. He handed the company to Andy Jassy, who had built AWS and who Bezos believed was the right person to lead Amazon's next chapter. Most founders cannot do this. They built the thing. They are identified with the thing. Leaving feels like dying. Bezos understood something that most founders don't. The best time to step back is when everything is working, not when you are failing or being pushed out. Stepping back when things are bad is retreat. Stepping back when things are great is strategy. He left because Blue Origin needed his full attention, and because he had spent 27 years building something that could now run without him. The ability to build something that doesn't need you anymore is the highest form of what a founder can achieve, and the ability to walk away from it when it's at the top is rarer than the ability to build it in the first place. 1. You read the statistic and you don't close the tab. 2. You quit before you're certain, because certainty never fully arrives. 3. You start in a garage with a folding table and extension cords, because the garage is what you have. 4. You choose market share over profit for a decade, because you understand what you're building. 5. When everything crashes and every reasonable person is selling, you don't sell. 6. You charge your best customers a fee, because you understand that commitment creates loyalty in a way that discounts never can. 7. You destroy your own best product before someone else does, because staying in control of the transition is worth the short-term pain. 8. You build something for yourself, realize other people need it, and sell it to them. 9. You start the 20-year project now, even though nobody will notice for 15 of those years. 10. You walk away at the top, because you built it to run without you, and that was always the point. None of these decisions were obvious in the moment. None of them came with guarantees. In 1994, hundreds of people read the same internet statistic that Jeff Bezos read. They all thought it was interesting. They all went back to what they were doing. He thought it was a decision. He didn't go back to what he was doing. Right now, somewhere, there is an AI statistic that looks exactly like that internet statistic looked in 1994. Same shape, same trajectory, same window, different numbers. The people who treat it as a decision will build the next version of Amazon. The people who find it interesting will remember reading it. You are sitting at a desk right now. There is information on your screen. What do you do with it? If this made you think, leave a comment. Subscribe for the next one.